This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, the True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Stories, the True and the Fictional. Today we have someone from Australia on, but before we bring him in, Brian, how are you? What have you been up to?
Good mate, good. How are you going?
You know, I'd say what I'd said last time, but then you would mock me for saying it. Oh, yeah, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Yeah, before we bring our guest in, guys, we've got sponsors. Rebecca Cassells, she's got a book out now, Innocence Corrupted, check that out. You've got Martin Kearns, he's just finished his Valor of Valhalla series. And not to plug myself, but my new book is out now. I got a really good review on it, which I was like, wow, 5-star review.
It almost looks like you wrote that review yourself, but you didn't.
No, trust me, I can barely write the back blurb of a book, let alone a review. So, but yeah, guys, check it out. All that stuff, all the links will be down in the show notes. But now that the promo's done, Joshua Walker, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Before we dive into our icebreakers, which we always love to do, who is Joshua Walker?
Who is he? Yeah, look, I'm a primary teacher by trade. I'm a writer, obviously. I've been writing since I was quite young, and trying to kind of grind the professional side of being an author probably since I was 15 or 16. I'm a musician, music lover. Husband. I brew beer for fun. I'm a pretty busy guy. Yeah, trying to stay busy.
Well, you've come to the right podcast because me and Ryan were in not in the same band, but we used to play in bands like his band played, then my band would play, or my band would play, then his band would play. Kind of.
That's so cool.
We played a lot of shows together.
Yeah.
What kind of music?
Punk rock.
Hey, that's my wheelhouse too. That's good.
Oh, awesome. I just, by my hat, I just went and saw Me First from the Gimme Gimmes.
Nice.
In Newcastle last weekend. Yes, that time of recording last weekend. Yeah, took my nephew up for his first over 18s gig. And it was...
And he hated it, didn't he? Absolutely.
No, he was lucky. He was very lucky because, we wanted to go at the front for Gimme Gimmes, right at the front. And so you know what a punk rock gig is like, Ryan, back in our day. There was just guys, elbows to the head. He was in the perfect spot where he was safe from it all. And I'm standing next to this probably 3-foot chick and her boyfriend is probably 4 foot, tiny. And I'm getting smacked. I feel like I'm the one that has to protect these small people as elbows and third. And it was a great old school punk rock gig. There was
That's really cool.
Even a punk rock band at the start, and not even a minute into the first song, this guy takes his shirt off and puts a stocking over his head. And he's playing a little MIDI keyboard.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm
so punk rock.
Australian punk rock scene it's alive and well. It's alive and well.
That's amazing. No, that's really cool. I'm a short dude, so I'm always the small one in the pit too. So I'm looking for protection wherever I can.
I would have been protecting you.
I appreciate it.
From the man that pumped the air, but he was somehow out of time. No rhythm. Yeah. Sweet. So let's dive into these icebreakers and learn more about you.
Yes,
pick your brain. So I think this time I'll kick it off because Ryan had it last time. So it's only fair that we share. So if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be?
Timothy Chalamet.
That's very specific.
I can't stand him.
You can't stand him?
I can't stand him in anything. I can't watch the dude. I can't watch June. I can't. I don't know what it is about him. I just, when you just have those actors that sometimes you just can't watch them. That's Timothy Chalamet to a T for me.
Wow. So was it before Dune or
Always. Yeah, always
like,
and forever. Yeah, it's like an irrational hatred. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but
that's like James Blunt for me. I hate Jump.
Yeah, okay, I get
I've
that
said
too.
this way too many times on the podcast. I can't stand his music. Can't stand his voice.
Yeah,
I mean,
the shaky voice.
You're beautiful. You know. But apparently
That's pretty good.
on Twitter or X, he's very funny. Like he loves interacting with people that hate him. He's just like
kind of like Chad Kroger, right?
Oh,
yeah,
Chad.
Yeah, Chad. The paddle pop stick line.
It sounds like when you say Chad Kroger, I've said it before on the podcast, but it sounds like a euphemism for taking a shit. I just got to go and take a Chad Kroger, you know? Like it's just, yeah, and he does. He looks like the paddle pop lion to start.
He does.
And yeah, I don't understand. Like Nickelback, you either hate them or you really, really, really love them because their fans will go to bat. Like I said something on Facebook, I think about 2 years ago about Nickel when they were doing a tour out here, and I said, "Oh, you know, look out! Here comes all your Nickelback fans," and they all just come out of the woodwork. It's like, "Don't you bash Nickelback, Nickelback!" It's like, "Oh, geez." It's like Taylor Swift and the Swifties; they'll murder you if you say bad about them.
Yeah, don't poke them with the wrong stick.
I do all the time. My niece and nephew went and saw them at the start of the year. But to make sure that it wasn't my nephew's first gig being Taylor Swift, I took him to NoFX instead first.
Nice.
Good starting point.
So, you know, like, your first gig will not be Taylor Swift.
You got to get both sides of the spectrum, as it were.
Yes. Yeah. It was completely different. I'm sure.
So good.
So good.
The other musician that I kind of think about in the same vein as like James Blunt and stuff. It's actually a band. Is Oasis. I don't know what it is about Oasis. They just don't work for me on any level.
Yeah, coming back there too. So.
I know. I'm the least excited about it, I think, out of every other human being in the world. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're doing what I like to call is they call it the reunion tour. I like to call We've Run Out of Money tour, and we need to get out there and make some more money. It's nothing to do about keeping the fans
That's
happy,
right.
anything like that. It's like we've run out of money. We need some more money, or we're going to a divorce and we've got a lot of expenses. Let's go and do another tour so we can get back in the green.
Yeah, it's the greatest marketing trick ever, I think, to not talk to your brother for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And then come back, you know. So yeah, they thought about it.
He's probably called Liam's probably called Noel and gone, "Have you run out of money?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've run out of money. Do you want to do a tour?" "Yeah, sure, let's do a tour."
Well, they're texting every year and they're like, do you want to still hate me for another year? Yeah, okay, no worries. Tell me when you're ready. Yeah.
Just like Blink-182.
Yeah, exactly.
Only their last album was phenomenal. Like they came back.
So good. They came back.
I was just like, what? Because I was even questionable about their 2003, the Untitled album, whatever. Yeah. I kind of liked some of it and didn't really like all of it. And then, they start doing it with the singer from, what was it?
Oh yeah, from Alkaline.
Yeah, Alkaline Trio. And I'm going like, I can't hear anything but Alkaline Trio. Like,
see, I actually really liked that album. That album felt like Blink musically, but his voice didn't seem to fit. He wasn't timed well. It wasn't, But I thought it was a good album. But but the new album slaps. Yeah,
because I'd given up on Blink and being like, ugh. And then that first single dropped, and I'm like, wow, they're back.
Yeah,
they're back. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us something that's on your bucket list, Josh.
To hang out with Chad Kroger and James Blunt.
Yeah. Have beers with them.
If that's on the bucket list, I'm hitting the leave chat now.
Oh, I love it. No, I guess one of the big things would be to see the Northern Lights in person. Mm-hmm. I know it seems like a bit of a cop-out answer, but I've always been obsessed with the kind of the real world magic of that. So I think that'd be sick.
Yeah, I'm the same. I know. Isn't there 2 places you can go to see them? I know Iceland is one.
Iceland's one, and then I think you can go to the others. I think you can go to Alaska, can't you?
I think it is Alaska.
Yeah. So like the latitude opposite, I think you'd be able to see them from both sides. Yeah. But that'd be sick. Otherwise, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess I've always been like a big like dreamer, but it's always been about creative goals and stuff for me. So, I don't know. Maybe to like, I can't think of any other bucket list things. They're the kind of things that for me they kind of pop up, and then I try to just tackle it as they come. Yeah. If that makes sense. I'm not the kind of guy that's like super into the idea of, bungee jumping or like, jumping out of a plane or whatever. Like, I don't really care about that stuff, but I do want to see the world, and I guess I want to try to make an impact with my art. So, yeah.
Cool. Good answer. All right, now Ryan's going to judge you very, very, very harshly for this next one. You do get 2 answers because, well, there's a lot of them, and so basically, what is the greatest sitcom ever made? And if it's not your favorite, you can pick one that's your favorite, like the one you rewatch the most, kind of thing.
Okay, so the greatest sitcom ever made, in my opinion, is Frasier.
Ooh,
yeah. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that show is the funniest, the wittiest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it doesn't matter how many times I rewatch it, it gets better with age. Just like the wine that Frasier is a snob about. Yeah. Like, it is just a fantastic show. And the craziest thing about Frasier too is that it's a spin-off of Cheers. Like, what the hell? Yeah. Like, it's the most successful spin-off of all time.
Have you watched 100%. Have you watched
I have.
Yes.
Yeah, I've watched the new Frasier, and you know what? It wasn't that bad. I think one of the cool things about it's pretty good. Like, I think Kelsey Grammer, like, he keeps it real, and I think he's pretty interested in maintaining and like kind of preserving that culture of humor from the 90s, which is
it's still well written jokes. Yeah, like, they're well crafted. It's not just tongue in cheek slapstick. It's intelligently funny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they really work up to it. The other sitcom answer that I've got, look, honestly, I love sitcoms. So, like, I could talk to you about Friends. I could talk to you about The Office. I could talk to you about, what was that show with Tim Allen?
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Yeah. Everybody loves Raymond, Seinfeld, etc. But I absolutely love Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, I'm a sucker for that show. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Larry David. Maybe I'm just a jerk like him, but I love that show. It's so good. It's so good.
It's got nothing to do with the music.
I think, exactly. I think what that show does is it kind of shows you that he's very, very human and very, makes the kind of mistakes that or the inappropriate things that we think about and accidentally say sometimes. He does the same thing. And I think he's just literally, polled his fan base and said, hey, what's the stupidest things you've ever done or said or, had in a moment, and he put him in the show. And
he stands by him.
Genius. I'm a very massive fan of his. So it's a very, very good show.
Yeah.
And that music is just iconic. The boom, boom, boom.
It's fantastic. I think the thing about Curb, that works for me exactly as you said, Ryan. Like, just the fact that he takes these like awkward social situations and then just defends them so obstinately, like episode to episode. It's great. And I think his cultural awareness is super fascinating. Yeah. Like, the way that he kind of analyzes how cultures interact in America, like in the context of America, is super interesting to me as well. So there's definitely some intellect, I think, at the core of everything that he does.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's what makes it just as good as it is. Like, it is, meant to be, what would you do if this situation happened? But it's also, there's a level of intelligence behind it that, you can just sit there and go, yeah, I can understand that. And, try and find ways to sort of make it impact everyone. So, yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yes, I got it.
You are winning.
I must say, with Frasier, though, I've only seen episodes here and there. I've never actually watched the full show, which is weird because I'm a massive Kelsey Grammer and David Hyde Pierce fan. So it seems strange that I've never actually watched it in its entirety. But it's definitely on the list to watch. But I know it's a big commitment. It's a lot of seasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's less seasons than something like Friends, but it is up there. I think the thing about Frasier is that oftentimes when I encounter people who they're kind of like, oh yeah, I've seen that, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
When I have convinced them to watch it, they've always come back and been completely blown away. Like it's kind of reset their expectations. So I would really highly recommend watching it through. It's the kind of thing too where the episodes are short enough that you can kind of you can slam through a lot in one sitting, especially when you get a bunch of like really tightly written episodes back to back.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend.
Awesome. No, I'll definitely check it out. Okay, so tell us about, the world's ended, and zombie apocalypse is upon us. What is your plan to survive?
Can I say brew beer and stay tipsy?
Why
That's
not?
probably what I do, honestly. I don't have much around that I could do to keep myself sane. I reckon I'd probably just have like a constant panic attack. So, but if I could keep my kegerator running, I'd be sweet.
Could you theoretically
you're
get
coming
a
back
zombie
down to New
drunk?
South Wales soon, so you can just jump into a Bunnings like I wouldn't. You set off for
true.
And I did make this argument with another guest, said, what about food? And I was like, well, they always have those shitty little cafes that you're allowed to, it will sort of last me for a couple of, maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm just there by myself.
I mean, the pies and the counter there have been sitting there for 6 months as it is anyway. So
exactly. Hopefully, hopefully someone's found a cure. World War Z style by then, and I would be able to sort of get away with it. Otherwise, I'm sort of venturing out to a Coles or a Woolies. I don't think DoorDash should be around by then, so
it would be very profitable.
or DoorDash should be like the zombies.
That's what I was thinking.
Getting smarter. They're actually logging onto the app and delivering as well.
Or people you get a dog to deliver something. And you tie it around its neck.
You know what? Then I'd be probably more likely not to do it then because I'd be worried the dog would get bitten by a zombie and
do it with the zombie.
No, I was also thinking do it with the zombie.
Do it with the zombie.
Oh, okay, I get you.
Tie it around the zombie neck.
I get you. That's like the end of Shaun of the Dead, where at the end he's just got Nick chained up in the garage playing just to play video games with him. I like it.
I'm also thinking, and then the zombie comes to your door, and then you kill the zombie, take your thing, and then you've rid the world of one less zombie. And over time, that's my zombie apocalypse
plan. Over time, less zombies would be like, I'm not going to sign up for DoorDash because people keep killing us when we go to the door. So. But it might take them a little bit longer to work it out because they're not as smart as what us humans are.
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on what the zombies are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Otherwise, it goes in the direction of the Lord of the Flies, and we just start eating zombie meat to get by.
Yeah. I can see that.
And on that thought, so final icebreaker question. Mr. Elon Musk calls you up. He really likes your books and all that. So he's like, okay, I'm going to give you a test drive of my new electric time machine. What do you do? Where do you go? But just remember, it's one trip. There and back. There and back. Okay. You can't run around. I mean, one of our guests did say they stole the car and wouldn't give it back, so then they got unlimited trips. But let's say that's off the table. One.
If you had three wishes, what would you wish? I'd wish for more wishes.
No. Hey, I said it was a good idea because, not you're thinking outside the box, but I'm not going to let anyone else get away with that. So.
And you don't want to get on Elon Musk's bad side because we all reckon that he's one tragedy away from becoming the world's first supervillain.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let me. Okay, this is a hard one. Can I give it like a top 3?
No, you can't.
Okay, I can't do a top 3. Okay, all right. Okay.
No, you can.
You can do a top 3, but then you have to pick one.
But I got to pick one out of them. Okay, yeah. So my top 3 would be like 1920s, era. Sorry, 1920s. Let's say 1920s, 1920s,
Are you saying
1920s New York, right?
So you want to participate in the prohibition and
100%. I want to that's right. I want to outbrew the prohibition. That'd be sick. Otherwise, I'd go maybe like, you know what? I'd probably go back to like prehistoric, like dinosaur era, and just so I could see weird crap, like like giant bugs and stuff like that. Like that'd be sick. Or this is hard. Gunpowder plot era England, like the gunpowder, like that era, like Guy Fawkes period. That'd be sick too. I could participate in that. Overthrow the monarchy. That'd be cool. But if I had to pick one of those, it'd probably be 1920s. I've always been obsessed with that era. I don't know what it is. Just the atmosphere of it, the introduction of like the way that popular music started to change at that time is always something that's fascinated me. Kind of like that early period of swing jazz and stuff.
Yeah.
And ragtime music and the beginning of cinema. All of that's just so cool. Yeah. That's probably what I'd pick.
Before there was an agenda.
Yeah.
Have you seen that there's a movie called Lawless?
No.
With I think Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy. I haven't seen it.
Well, because it's based on based on a true story. Like, so basically, this guy, it's like 1920s prohibition, but this guy was researching his family tree, and he found out that I think his great grandfather or his grandfather and two brothers were successful bootleggers in the 1920s and all that. And then he started researching, piecing it all together, and then he made a book about it, and then they turned it into a movie or something like that. So it's really cool, really interesting movie. It's one of those movies where where Hollywood usually takes a true story and then blemishes it, or takes something out of it because it's too
it's too real.
Unbelievable, unbelievable or whatever. But
don't they say that to actually say based on a true story, it only needs to be 14% true or something like that?
Something like that, and I think
it's a very low number.
Yeah, and they say based on, so they don't get sued or something.
Yeah,
based or whatever. But yeah, there's this thing that really happened where he gets his throat cut from ear to ear essentially, and then he walks like 5 miles to a hospital holding his throat. That's what really happened. In the movie, they went, no one will believe that. So he got his throat cut and he walked like 10 meters. And I'm going like, so he actually, that could have been flipping cool. They did the same thing in Hacksaw Ridge when, like, he kicks a grenade. Have you seen Hacksaw Ridge?
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so in the movie he kicks the grenade. In reality, he stood on it.
Yeah,
and it blew up his leg,
and it goes off. Yeah,
and it goes off, and then he spent like I don't know a couple of hours crawling around the battlefield, helping people. And in the movie, they just went, on a stretcher, taken away.
Yeah.
It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
Just do the true story.
Yeah.
Classic Hollywood.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah.
Otherwise, you go the other way where you just make it completely over the top. Like,
over the top,
Peaky Blinders is kind of like that, where there's a true historical aspect at the core of the story, but so much of it is just completely over the top, compared to what really would happen. So, yeah.
And then there's another shout out to Matthew Holmes, Ryan. We got a friend who's been on a few times. He's a filmmaker, and he makes it's like annoyingly historically accurate.
Oh wow!
So
That's cool.
He did a Ben Hall movie, Legend of Ben Hall.
Yeah,
accurate to the T. He's like, I'm not saying he's a hero. I'm not saying he's a villain. This is what happened.
That's great. He sounds like the kind of guy that would remake The Lord of the Rings and include Tom Bombadil in the movie.
I don't know if he would because of his respect for how good Lord of the Rings was.
Yeah.
No, but even his latest movie, which is it's going to be out on streaming next year. But someone told him to make a shark movie, and he goes, "I hate shark movies. Shark movies are stupid." And he's like, the guy's like, "If you want to make some money, make a shark movie." And he goes out and he makes his shark movie, and it's possibly his best movie.
Wow, good on him.
It's like 1947 Australia. Gangsters, everything and it's such a good film. Like the premise is like these bank robbers crash their truck with hauling gold bullions, and it crashes into a river, and they hire these nearby divers, like 1940s divers, where they got to screw the bolts on and old school like that, and they go in there and there's a bull shark in there.
Oh, that's mad.
And it's just this really awesome movie about these gangsters basically forcing them to, they're basically they're going to kill them when they've
That's so cool.
finished the job. And it was such a good movie, and it was 1940s, and it was so accurate to the T.
What's the name of the film?
It's called Fear Below.
Fear Below. That's so cool.
It'll be out, I think he said early next year on streaming, cool. On streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, nice.
Probably Stan, because Stan's the place for Australian films.
Yeah, wicked. That is so cool.
Yeah.
What a great concept.
Another shout out to Matthew Holmes. And you won't understand this, Josh, but Ryan will. Yes, Adam Wilson is in it, right? Matthew's got an actor that he puts in all of his films.
Oh, I love that.
His name's Adam Wilson. But in this one, he didn't have a beard, so I'm going like, where is he? Where is he?
That's so cool.
I had to Google it, and I go, oh, that's him without a beard. He looks nothing like it.
It's like the classic pairing between Christopher Nolan and Cillian Murphy, like that kind of thing. Yeah. That's really cool. I like that. Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
Or Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. That's even more classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this isn't the Matthew Holmes show, so you've passed the icebreakers. Let's move on to the fun stuff.
This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between two ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today.
So I hear you're a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Cool. Well,
I hope so.
tell us about your journey. How'd you get started and all that?
Basically, I kind of started out always being obsessed by like superheroes and comics and things when I was a kid, and so I'd draw a lot. My dad's a big reader, but he's got a cupboard at home with all his old comics just kind of sealed away. And when I was little, I was completely fascinated by it. Like I just wanted to get into that cupboard and read it all. And he'd let me go through it, with his supervision, and we'd pull certain stuff out that I could read, and slowly work my way through it. And then kind of alongside that, I started reading at a pretty early age. So I was lucky enough, I guess, to be able to read at quite an advanced level. So I read The Hobbit when I was probably 5 or 6. Like I was pretty young, and I loved it. And I think, I probably didn't access the full story at that age, and I went back and reread it obviously several times, and I read it nearly every year now. But that was kind of that kind of conduit, I guess, between the comic book kind of interest and then the writing journey. And then after that, I just kind of started making my way through Dad's bookshelves, and I was reading like the old expanded Star Wars universe stuff, like Timothy Zahn and all the Kevin J. Anderson and stuff like that. And then kind of got through like Tad Williams and David Eddings and Terry Brooks and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how I found my stories. Like that's how I got into fantasy. And then when I was a teenager, I started reading The Wheel of Time, and that just brought me through full circle. So I'd read all the classics by then, but The Wheel of Time was like that one classic series that I hadn't really touched because Dad didn't have them at home. And so I started collecting them, and that just that just wowed me. It's knocked my socks off. And I know a lot of people will tell you, it's good, but there's a lot of slog in the middle and stuff like that. But it never really bothered me. The overall story was just incredible. Like the way that he thought about that. And also I think the way that Brandon Sanderson concluded that series was really satisfying for me. I know a lot of other readers might kind of argue against that, but I really enjoyed the epic scale of that. And I really wanted to try to write something that could capture that vast scale in less than 14 books. So that was kind of that was the goal for me, I guess, at that kind of point. So so from there, I started writing a novel when I was 14, 15, 16. And I wrote it. It was pretty crap, as it should be. And I remember actually sitting down during HSC and so finals for people who aren't from Sydney, and I was just like meant to be studying, and I was watching Brandon Sanderson's lectures instead and taking notes on that. Like I wasn't even doing like what I was meant to be doing, and I would do that nearly every day. Like I just devoured that, like the Writing Excuses podcast, all these kind of sources of like writing teaching for me. And that's kind of how anyway, then I went to university, and at uni, obviously everything stalls. So my reading became purely academic. I studied literature, which is really cool. Studying everything from kind of the Odyssey and the Aeneid all the way through to modern time, and looking at Flannery O'Connor and some kind of 20th century American writing and things like that. But it wasn't reading for leisure. And at the same time, because I was doing so much analytical work, I couldn't write. So everything kind of went on hold during my degree. It was a Bachelor of Liberal Arts. And then after that, I became a teacher. And while I was doing my teaching degree, which was dead boring, while I was doing that, that's when I started to pick it up again. And I read a series by Peter V. Brett. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote a series called The Demon Cycle. The first book's called The Painted Man. And it's incredible, absolutely incredible. I'd highly recommend it. And that's the series that got me writing again and reading again on a massive level. So from there, I wrote 2 or 3 novels. I started trying to query, and I was getting a lot of rejections, but I was getting rejections with good feedback. And so I felt pretty positive about it all. And then when COVID hit, I had another massive stall. So a lot of people in COVID kind of went the opposite way. Like they got super creative. They started doing all this stuff they never had the chance to do. I was the complete opposite. I felt like I was, kind of imprisoned at home. I got super depressed. I was just playing Call of Duty all the time. And I was playing a lot of music and stuff, but even that kind of left. So when I started writing and querying at the same time, I'd been, writing music, producing music, putting albums out, doing all this stuff. And it just all died during COVID.
Yeah.
And I never really quite got my mojo back for everything, but writing came back a few years ago after I read Ryan Cahill's series. He's a big indie author, and that was the inspiration for me to try and self-publish. And I kind of went down that road instead of continuing to query. And so far it's worked out. It's been a big journey, but I guess because I'm such a creative person, I've never really been too scared of having to do the admin side, the marketing side, and that's never really bothered me too much. So I don't necessarily think it's for everybody, but indie is working for me at the moment. So yeah,
100%. I do indie full time. I mean, I signed up with Shoreline, and all the news has come out about them being like they've shut down, liquidation, they're dodgy. I had no inkling that they were dodgy. I checked thoroughly before I signed with them.
I heard the same thing from another author buddy of mine, actually. Yeah. They had no idea. Yeah.
And then it turns out that, well, they change the company name all the time. The guy that runs it changes his name all the time. And I'm going to obviously if you keep doing that, then you can't trace things back to,
that's right.
Not unless you've got a police database or something like that, But for me, look, it was an experience. I learned how the process was done, and now I think I'm just going to self-publish from now on. And I know how to do it. I've got all the software, all the stuff. I can pretty much almost design my own book covers now too. But the next one I'm doing is going to be a fantasy one. I'm joining the fantasy club.
Nice.
So I'm going to get some pretty good art done. So then that I might just take that art and then do it myself, kind of thing. But I'm a control freak.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I know how I want things done. I know how I want them to look. Yeah. Anytime I've had a book cover done, I'm like, I go to painstakingly detail to describe everything. This is how I want it. I want it to be this, and then they nail it every single time. So
that's really cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the tricky things is that potential kind of trap of like vanity presses, and sometimes it's really hard to tell. And there were definitely periods with me as well where I was kind of, I was doing the querying thing, and I wasn't getting much back, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just go with a smaller press. But I was always very wary of the potential dangers of falling into a smaller press that didn't have the integrity that I thought they did. So I generally speaking, stayed away. But I guess I'm lucky. Yeah, because there's a lot of people who have done what they thought was the right thing, and then they've been screwed later, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
But it's good now that I guess you get to kind of recapture that sense of control and restart and go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Now, before I forget, because we're going to call this the Aney Cormac question, because he's the one that sparked it off. I'm sure you've seen the clips. I'm sure you guys have seen the clips floating around. That this will be a soundbite. Just saying. Maps in fantasy books, yay or nay?
Okay, so I'll
pull up your essay.
So no, I'll pull up my map. So
awesome.
That's my map. It's pretty sick. But look, this is my take. I've actually spoken to Aney about this before.
Intervention.
I don't give a crap if there's a map or not, generally. So I'll read the book, and I tend to be quite good at visualizing. I'm not the kind of person that goes back to the map and goes, oh, I'm here now. I don't care. Like, I just want to read the story. I wasn't going to put a map in my books until about 2 weeks before the first novella came out. And then one of my author buddies put me in touch with his cartographer, and he was like, oh, he's got a massive sale. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, other readers are going to want it. So I put it there. And it's ended up becoming, from a marketing point of view, one of the best things that I've got. Like, a lot of new readers that are coming into the series love the world map. I still don't really care about it that much. He's done an amazing job. But it's not. And the other thing as well is, like, for me, I don't like committing to the geography of the world before the full series is written. So there was that as well, where I was like, I don't want to have to piece all of this out before, the first book comes out. So, because now I'm kind of caged in a little bit. But anyway, I've got a love-hate relationship with them.
Yeah. So my idea, and feel free to steal it, guys, is if I do a map in my fantasy one, I want to do it like an RPG game where the map is blurred.
Yeah.
So basically you have the cloudy around the. So
and it expands.
But you show the map of the immediate area that the whole book takes place in.
That's what I've done. I've done. So
awesome.
So my next novella, the map is going to move south because that's the setting. And so by the end of the series, the full world map will be a lot bigger than the map that we're getting now. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I think it's the right approach, because it lets you have that balance between needing to know everything and being able to still play in your playground. Like, this is our playground, So
look, everyone loves mystery, right? So I wonder what's up there in that cloudy section.
That's right.
Well, the author doesn't know yet, darling.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to do some talking, Ryan?
I'm just listening at the moment. So basically, so we've talked about your writing journey. Tell us a bit about your writing process. So where do you get your ideas from? Like, how did you work out how you're going to build your world and get to where you are? It's in the sense of the novella.
Yeah. Okay. So, with the world building, I'm kind of one of those people that gets ideas from weird stuff that I read, and weird stuff that I see, and I kind of just bank all of that in notes on my phone, and I'll kind of think, are there ways that I can fuse these together? So I originally had this idea of writing a series about these people who could basically go into battle, and then they could essentially go into a force field bubble and then go dormant on the battlefield and resume battle the next day. And being inside the force field would also kind of rejuvenate them, feed them, provide them with nutrients, all these things. And so it was like it actually came from the droidicas in Star Wars, like those stupid like roly-poly droids. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that came from. And then I did away with a lot of that, but I kept the orb thingy that the people went into, and I linked that with like the fungal like symbiosis that trees share in the real world. So the ways that trees can basically communicate with one another under the ground, they can send micronutrients to other trees that are suffering from diseases. All these really cool things that I read about. I read this book called The Hidden Life of Trees, and I've always been super fascinated by trees, growing up in the Blue Mountains, and doing long bushwalks and stuff, and being utterly kind of breathtaking by the landscape there. But so I started thinking, how can I fuse all these things together? And so I'm kind of one of those jigsaw puzzle people when it comes to world building. I like to kind of just bring things together slowly and then see if I can find a through line. And the through line for me was a magic system that's based around light, essentially. Awesome. And the connection, I guess, the scientific connection. There's a spiritual kind of part of the magic system, but the scientific part of the magic system has to do with bioluminescence. And the thing that interests me about bioluminescence is that we see it in the real world and it looks unreal. It looks supernatural, Yeah. But chemically there's something happening. And so I wanted to kind of integrate those things in my world. So and like I said before, like that idea, I guess, of building a world where this is your playground.
Yeah.
I love having so many different things happening and been able to kind of explore culture to culture, how this world impacts the people. So, so a lot of, I guess if I had to kind of distill down the world building, it's just basically be exposed to a lot of things, be exposed to a lot of different written works, visual mediums, be exposed to a lot of conversations with different people. And like when you're listening to these things or reading these things, like actively think about them, because oftentimes you have little light bulb moments. You just don't know how to fit them all together. But if you write them all down, you can revisit them at any time and kind of go, oh yeah, like, from A, B to C, these things could work. So I guess my world building is fairly like fluid. It's kind of in the moment. In terms of my actual process, I'm also fairly fluid. Like I'm mostly a discovery writer. So which is weird for epic fantasy. Usually in epic fantasy, people really plot things. I do to an extent. So basically I'll kind of discovery write the first like 30% of a book.
Okay.
And then once I've kind of found my feet, figured out the characters and figured out what's going on, that's when I'll basically stop drafting and I will start writing a chapter by chapter outline that's fairly detailed, just to make sure that I don't miss any continuity problems, and I can kind of get to the ending that I've envisioned from the start. So I always know the ending. Yeah. And then usually what happens is I have to redraft the first 30% like 50 times. So that's one of the problems, I guess, with discovery writing in this genre, is that especially with book one, this is it here, An Exile of Water and Gold. The beginning of this book, the first like 40,000 words, I think I rewrote from scratch like 10 times. It's just doing my head in, and it was the same like springboard that I started the rest of the story with, and the rest of the story was functioning fine. But I really had to go back and clean it up. So so I'm definitely a discovery writer by nature, but I've learned to become an outliner to help myself out later.
I've always found that, at least having points. These are the events. Because I mean, like my first book, Letters from the Emu War, it's all literary, all letters and stuff like that. So based on a true story, so I had to timeline events, and then I kind of filled out between it. That's kind of how I write. Even the book that I did that just came out, it's like a trilogy of novellas. It's a zombie romance comedy.
That's cool.
It's well, apparently it's good. Like it's weird because I just write. I generally just write for myself. To get, I have a story. This is a cool story. Let's do the story, and then I put it out there, and then people like it. I'm going, what? It's just like
that's sick, man. That's so cool.
That was an nightmare because that was not only it had the first two books, a series of events running parallel to one another. So I've got a timeline. They kind of overlap a little bit. So I got to make a series of events and characters doing things to all bring it together and at the end. And then the third one was easy because it was just set 2 years in the future, but it was just now you've got twice the amount of characters.
Yeah.
It's just like, but yeah, so even with that, it was just point by point. These are the events. This is, I knew how the whole series was going to end before I even wrote it. It's kind of like a thing that I picked up from Bill Lawrence, who wrote Scrubs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He said he always knew from the get-go how this show was going to end. And then, we're getting cancelled. Here's the ending, So.
Yeah, I think a lot of TV writers used to approach it similarly to Bill Lawrence as well. Like, you'd speak to the writers of Lost, they say the same thing.
Yeah.
But look at how much of a cluster that show was in the lead up to the ending.
Yeah.
Due to various things. But yeah, I think having the ending in mind is crucial, whether you are a discovery writer or an outliner. I think going from mark to mark, like you said, is a really clever idea because it helps you sequence, right? And the sequence needs to be tight, especially when you're dealing with large cast of characters, a complex world, etc.
Yeah.
The only other thing I think about discovery writing is that it works better in more literary genres, romance and things like that, where you're playing with character relationships more than the world. But it's really interesting because if you think about it, like fantasy is escapist by nature and it's meant to be imaginative. And so you'd think that discovery writing should be the natural way to go about it. I think the problem is just that it's usually so well thought out and so vast that a lot of writers can't do that. But if you look at someone like Tolkien, like, yes, Tolkien had the context for everything in Middle-earth before he wrote the books.
Yeah.
Because he'd been developing it over such a long amount of time. But he did discovery write those. He discovery wrote The Hobbit, and the first version of The Hobbit, the sequence where Bilbo meets Gollum and steals the ring. If you can find a first edition or even a second edition of The Hobbit, that scene is drastically different.
Wow.
It's drastically different because he didn't realize how closely linked the ring was to the next story he was going to tell until he started writing The Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So, and that's similar to what I struggle with. It's just that I'm trying to fix that stuff before the book gets published. You know, so yeah.
So how many times do you usually cycle through before you're happy with it? Like, because I cycle through a lot. And it kind of helps me because I think I aim for about 3 times.
Yep.
Kind of thing, because in the final draft of the Wedding Night trilogy that I wrote, I got to a point where I realized this scene here, someone has to die. Like, someone has to die.
Yeah.
Someone has to die. Yeah. And then I realized, okay, this character, no, I like this character. That means I got to kill her.
Yeah, kill your darling.
It's which is tough. But I now look for what's going to be the most impactful.
And I think you've got the ability to do that when you revise. So I think, look, I'm probably fairly similar to you, Jamie. Like, I think, I would like to say that I can revise fairly tightly 3 times. That's before I go to the editor.
Mm-hmm.
So then I've got a fantastic editor, and I'll send her the manuscript. She will look at it developmentally. She'll also do the line edits. And so then what happens is she'll have some developmental recommendations. I won't take them all, but I will take the ones that I think work best. So then that's another 1 or 2 revisions. And then after that, I've got to do the line edits. So I think by the end, I end up seeing it through 7 drafts, 8 drafts.
Wow. Yeah.
But like, it's not like, a draft is a very fluid thing. Like, some drafts, you're rewriting a significant number of words. There were times where I was getting developmental edits back, and that, these were the times where I had to rewrite the beginning. And so that was just a time drain, like, I was just sitting there going, geez, I've got to rewrite the whole bloody start of this thing. But then other times, you're getting line edits back, and I can power through line edits on the whole novel in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like that, it just doesn't take much work. So it depends on what the revision is. But for me, revising before it gets to the editor, I'd say 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in a pretty good spot. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your book. I think we should talk about your book.
Cool.
What's it about? Enlighten us.
It's about a lot of things. I always struggle to pitch this book.
Is it about gold and water, or water and
Yeah, kind of. But the gold and water is actually more of an allegory, but there are some realistic interpretations of that in the story. But essentially, this book is it's part murder mystery.
Ooh.
It was inspired by Toy Story, which is really weird.
Hey,
Yeah, which is the greatest movie of all time, by the way. But we can have that conversation another time.
Yes,
but
okay.
Essentially, the inciting incident of the story was my attempt to take the inciting incident of Toy Story and rewrite it for an adult epic fantasy audience. So I tried to do that intentionally at the start. Then the story kind of sprawled out of control from there. So there's a through line that's a murder mystery, which kind of it is paired with a lot of political tension rising across multiple cultures. Then there's also obviously like the science of these giant trees in the world that we see on the cover here, and what's happening with that. That's the magic system stuff. There's a story of colonialism. So the tree here, the indigenous people in this world, they're known as Aobians. And I guess coming from an Australian background, I guess I really wanted to just consider a lot about who we are as Australians.
Yep.
And, I find it interesting how to be Australian is this constantly evolving thing. Like we're so multicultural.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wonder what would have happened if we'd colonized maybe with more sensitivity, or with more moral awareness of what we were doing. And so I kind of wanted to show a similar thread in this world where these indigenous people who live in the trees are overcome by humanity. Humanity comes and settles on the continent, and that's when everything starts to fracture. So there's an ongoing conversation about that. I'm not necessarily throwing out any agendas here, by the way. Like this is all thought experiments in this book. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of a bit about the story on a macro level.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about a couple. They're betrothed to get married, and one of them, the man in the couple, he basically gets exiled from his homeland, which is the tree, and his partner is trying to bring him home, and she starts to kind of uncover a murder mystery plot and some governmental corruption and things like that along the way.
That's awesome. I love it when you take like elements from, I guess, the real world, like a murder mystery or something like that, and you throw it into a fantasy world. I don't know. It's just fantasy makes everything cool. You know what I mean? And
I've always been a murder mystery reader. Like I love reading crime novels, and I love the short, sharp, punchy kind of, and the reaction that you get at the end from seeing something through to the end. Like even shows like Midsummer Murders and stuff. Like I love that stuff,
Yeah.
And I really wanted to inject this epic fantasy world with that kind of storyline. Yeah.
If anyone's out there, someone needs to make a show like Psych, but in the fantasy world. Like
that would be cool. Yeah.
Like you get a dwarf detective or something. It's just that sort of thing's cool. It's just even with horror, I'd love to see a horror in a fantasy world. Like,
Oh, a horror in a fantasy world is
It's so easy to bring fantasy world elements into our world and make horror. I mean, Supernatural is a fantastic show for 5 seasons. Just saying, back in their monster, early monster days and stuff like that. Awesome stuff, but let's reverse it. Like
yeah,
like,
100%.
there is a world where there's all these creatures. Why not
take advantage
scare
of
us
it
in there?
And I find other mediums do this really well. So if you look at video games, something like Elden Ring, right? That really captures that integration of horror with epic fantasy, like eldritch beasts and but then still this really complicated world building driven plot that's happening beneath everything. So I don't know why we don't do more of that in the written form. Yeah.
Well, you and I are going to start it, buddy. No,
that's it.
No, do it. Because like I'm a contrarian. Everyone knows I'm a contrarian. My best mate makes fun of me all the time for being a contrarian. But I just like doing things differently.
Yeah. As you should.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can tell a story.
This is how we innovate. Yeah.
That's it. So, is there any more coming? Is there from in the same series? How many books you got planned for the one series, or are you just pantsering along?
It's meant to be a trilogy, so hopefully it is. It might end up being 4. We'll see how we go. That's going to be a natural consequence of me discovery writing parts of it. But yes, it's meant to be a trilogy. The idea is to have a novella in between each of the main books in the series.
Punk rock style.
Yeah. So
album,
so the novella,
album, EP.
That's right. Yeah. And the novella basically, like the one that's out now, the rest of the guys focuses on a mentor character who's in book 1. Cool. And kind of her origin story. And there are important reasons to understand her story, but it's all wider context stuff.
Yep.
So you don't need it to read the series through, but it's there for the people that want it, and it's more character driven. So that's the idea with the other novellas as well, is to basically focus on a different side character, take us through the origin story. And it gives me a bit more experimentation as well. So I've got one coming out in February called The Child of the Greenwood. It's another novella set before the main series, and it's my attempt to kind of fuse body horror with Disney's Tarzan and Redwall, like basically all mashed together, but still set within the chronology of the main events that are happening in world. So so that's what's coming next. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just a question that's not on the what we discussed, but I just noticed when you were holding up the books there, the art on those books is absolutely amazing. Did you design that yourself, or did you contract someone else to do that, or have that discussion with them saying this is what I want, and did it turn out exactly how you wanted it?
That's a great question. So I wish I could say it was all me, but it wasn't. The actual like layout design was kind of me. Like I spoke to my cover designers and said to them, this is what I want to go for with the text, with the typography, etc. And I want them to be the same through the whole series.
Yeah.
So basically what's happening is I've got one designer for my novellas. Her name's Steph. She's brilliant. She basically is very good at capturing my weird ideas in an iconographic manner. And so the idea with the novellas is to have an iconography cover, because these are really eye-catching from a distance. And so what I see oftentimes, especially when you're trying to sell books through places like Amazon, is the thumbnail counts more than the quality of the art. I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you look at this as a thumbnail, it's still quite striking. People want to know what's the weird ball on the front, and and the text stands out. It looks pretty kind of, if you walk into a Dimmick shop in Australia, a lot of UK published fantasy looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was the other idea, was can I make this look as indistinguishable from trad as possible as an indie author? So that was my other kind of idea with this. But then the main books in the series, same typography, so same structure of the actual wording, but then the art is much more grand. The artist here, his name's Jeff Brown. He's incredible. He does a lot of art these days for a lot of trad publishers. He's doing a lot more work for The Broken Binding, who do a lot of epic fantasy special editions out of the UK. So he's getting really big, and he is a lot more expensive than my novella cover artist, but it's worth it because people don't forget this cover. On the flip side, the other interesting thing about this cover is it looks like what comes out of American publishers.
Yeah.
So if you walk into a Barnes and Noble, this is what fantasy looks like.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like this. So I kind of wanted to have both things going, but with that through line of the typography, so that because I essentially as an indie author, you are marketing to a global audience, and so I really wanted to consider ways of having the covers sell the series to different readers. Yeah.
It's a little ironic though, when they say don't judge a book by its cover, but that's what
you've 100% have to. Yeah.
You have to. It's the opposite. Please judge this book.
And sometimes the covers don't really have that much to do with the story. Like the cover on Exile is just a picture of the main character looking back at his homeland. I think that happens for maybe a sentence on page.
So what you're saying is that the cover is clickbait.
100%.
Traditional clickbait.
It is 100% clickbait, and the book will not sell without it. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you can write the best damn book in the world, but if it doesn't have a cover, it's just not gonna get into people's hands. And it's unfortunate because I do feel like there's a level at which you can be outpriced as an indie author.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest, it's expensive. It's expensive to do.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, it's worth it. If you can't, do the next best thing.
Yeah.
If you can design something yourself, and you feel confident in keeping it simple, but effective, then do it by all means. I just can't. I don't have that knack. Yeah.
No, well, I feel like fantasy has certain requirements for it to,
There is that as
fantasy,
well. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not
100%.
like the old day. Like a friend of mine, or family friend of ours, died about a year ago. Like, so we had a whole clearing out of his stuff and all that, and he had all these old books. So I got like 50 old school books, but they're the old school red books with the just the word. You know what? Give me 1 second. I'll grab it.
Yeah.
I'm back. It's just that.
Oh yeah.
And then it's got the name on the side.
Love it.
The Battlers by whoever that is, and you just, I don't know. It's just like, I love that stuff, but then like maybe this works because you're like, oh, what's that? You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's old school.
Yeah, I guess like with a cover, it doesn't matter what it is. You're trying to get people to ask questions about what it is,
Yeah.
So I'd love to eventually do a special edition one day where I can keep the main art as the dust jacket.
Yeah.
But then when you pull it off, you've got something really simple like that, like a foil stamped, leather or something like that. Like that'd be really cool. Yeah.
But then I guess in a way back then, all the books were that like that. So you could just grab one at a whim and it would be like Kinder Surprise for books or whatever.
True.
Like
true. Yeah.
That's kind of cool now. Now I'm thinking like, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, it's either no cover or a fancy cover. Nothing in between.
Just sell the manuscript with the, in A4.
No. I think it's got to look like a book, though.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. But
that's just interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, sidetracked. Do you have any other questions, Ryan?
No. I really got taken back by the cover art. And I thought, wow, that's, I wondered if that was something you did yourself, because obviously you mentioned all the different talents that you have, and I thought maybe that was another one you just hadn't mentioned. But
I wish it was. I will show you real quick. Hold on. I'll see if I can grab this. So this is the sorry, I've got boxes behind me because we're about to move, but this is the hardcover of the same book. So basically, this is how it looks. It's the same thing.
Okay.
But the cool thing is when you pop the lid, you get this. So you get the art wraparound without the text.
Yeah.
And so that was another I guess like thing that I had in my head is I wanted it to still look like it, as more of a collector's item for the people that wanted it.
Yeah.
So because I really did want to celebrate the fact that this art exists, because it's very easy sometimes to forget how incredible the artists are, because you end up just slapping text on it and it's just becoming a means to an end. Yeah. So, I guess as an indie, again, we've got the ability to do cool stuff like that. Yeah. Like a lot of trad publishers, they're not doing this. Yeah. They just have it's an empty single tone color on the front of the hardcover and then the dust jacket on top. So, yeah.
No, props to there's a lot of good artists out there. Some of them try to charge you way too much.
Yeah.
I tried when I started, I was on Fiverr a lot. I had to kind of work my way through I found some good ones to work with essentially. But now I was lucky enough because of the Shoreline, just destroying. I actually found one of their artists that they used, and they're pretty cheap and they're pretty good. So
amazing.
I'm going to go through them again. Like, I mean, I did not realize how cheap they were. I think they're like some Indonesian, two brothers from Indonesia. Phenomenal art.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's so much art out there to be found. Like the chapter headings in my book, similar thing to you. went through Fiverr, and they're beautiful. Like they're just these little hand drawn illustrations for each
Oh, cool.
point of view character, and they relate to something that you know about the character when you read the book. But that's just a lady, a Russian artist that I found on Fiverr, and she's wonderful to work with. She didn't charge an arm and a leg, and you know she even did like the scene breaks.
Oh,
so the scene breaks look like the root of the trees. Yeah, so just cool stuff like that. There's so much out there to be found, and as indies, like it's kind of up to us to try and celebrate those other indie creators because people aren't finding them. You know.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about the whole indie world is like strong network, strong connections. People always, you know, they're genuine.
Yeah.
You know, every now and again you get a scammer. I had to deal with a scammer recently. It was very funny. We got to the point where I realized they were a scammer, and then I tested them, and they were like, okay, they're a scammer. Yeah, and now I'm at the point where like I hold all the power, you know, and it's like I could flip it on them, but I'm like, I don't know.
Was that a Fiverr artist as well?
No, this is someone on X.
Okay, yeah. Oh, you got to be careful on socials. Yeah. I put out a call the other day. One of the artists that I've worked with in the past, she's not doing any art now, and so I put out a call on X for artists with a similar styles to hit me up with a message. And I wrote on the post explicitly, I'm asking for artists, not bots. Anyway, 10 minutes later, and I've got 20 plus replies from bot accounts. And I was just like, this is a joke. Like I had to delete the post because I was like, I can't tell whether you're a real artist or not. Like, and it's not worth my time and effort to figure that out because the risks are too high. You know, so you do have to be careful. I think the best way to do it is to source artists through other people who have used with them, and they know that they're reputable. And depending on your stance on AI, you might also want to look into artists who aren't using AI. So there's that as well. So
definitely me. I you know I mentioned it on our last episode. The only way I do work with AI is for concepts. I'll whip up a concept. You know, that's fine, and then I'll present it to an artist and go, make it.
See. That makes sense. I think, because what you're doing is you're giving the artist the freedom to exercise their creative ability still. So one thing actually that I've done in the front of my books in the copyright section, which I would urge other creators to do if they feel the same about this on an ethical level, but I do have in my copyright section just a short disclaimer that basically just says no AI was used in the production of this publication, including any interior exterior artwork. And the other thing that I've got there is that the publication can't be used to further any algorithm or learning techniques of any AI-based programs. I think it's just a way to try to preserve this stuff that we're creating. For the right reasons, you know, because we are immortalizing this stuff by putting it down, putting it out there. So.
But then at the very bottom, or at least on the last page, you can write, "Are you Sarah Connor?"
Just imagine. That's great.
Are you Sarah? Yeah, I'm sorry. That's
great.
It's funny. They say, you know, we spend all this time creating AI. Like, okay, what are they doing? What are we using it for? Taking over the world? No, we're using it for memes and just stupid. Like if you watch our other episodes, one of our co-hosts, Chris Park, who's on all the time, he's obsessed with AI. Like he gets free access to it because he uses it for work, and so he's got access to all the top line, and he just makes the most stupid stuff. It's funny.
It's great for that.
You know,
it's great for that.
It's great for that, but you know, it's Now you got Robert Downey Jr. coming after it. I think he said he's going to sue anyone that uses his, you know, does AI of him, and then when he's dead and gone, his law firm will be continuing on, you know, doing the same thing. Zachary Levi from Shazam, he's starting to build his own company that's AI free, you know, like aside Hollywood, and all that, but.
It's it's interesting. It's an interesting world that we're. Have you guys seen the Gordon Ramsay AI video memes going around Instagram and stuff?
The last one I saw was him building the pyramids.
They're pretty great. But like, you know, sometimes I think, man, why aren't we optimizing this to you know, do menial tasks for us or something? Like, why are we, you know, using it for this crap? Like,
No,
anyway,
it's human nature, man. Human nature. Yeah, look, yeah, thanks for coming on, I guess.
Thank you. That was great. Yeah.
Plug yourself. Where can we buy your books?
Social, books, everything like that.
Website,
Yeah,
everything,
yeah. Yeah, so I do have a website. It's just joshuawalkerauthor.com. I've got a web store on there as well. So if you want to buy signed copies from me, all my copies are signed at the same price that you get the books anywhere else, and I'll mail them off to you. Obviously, you can buy my books on Amazon. If you're overseas, Barnes & Noble in America, Waterstones in the UK, etc. Socials. I'm on Instagram, jlw.author. I'm on X under Jwalkerwrites. I'm on Facebook under Josh Walker Author, but I don't really use Facebook. But I am there. So, yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, you can hit me up any of those ways.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks, guys, for listening. You know the deal, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com if you want to reach out. We're on all the socials. All the links are down there. We're primarily on Instagram. That's where we're most active. Check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns, and me too. Buy my stuff. Find your books out. Go get it. I got a print. Right here.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, excellent.
That's great.
And, yeah, I'm very happy with it. So's that one reviewer. So yeah, thanks guys again, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.
In 1932, the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 emus and lost. It's a part of Australian history that not many know about. Maybe that's because history is written by those who win. So if you want to hear the full story of the Great Emu War of 1932, then check out my book, Letters from the Emu War. Read letters, newspaper articles, and journal entries. With every turn of the page, you will gain a deeper understanding of the life and times of emus at war. So head on over to jabryden.com and grab a signed copy today.